I have been harvesting fruit out of my backyard garden every single month this year, and the goal is to continue harvesting every single month for all of 2026. In January and February, I harvested strawberries. Here in Florida, strawberries grow during winter. In March, I was still harvesting strawberries, but I added loquats, which one of my favorite fruits. It kind of tastes like a peach and a mandarin had a baby, or a peach and an orange had a baby. It's kind of citrusy without being citrus, which is great because we have issues with citrus down here. Then last month, I was able to pull a ridiculous amount of mulberries. I was also still getting strawberries, a little bit of loquats, and my mulberries are finished now, but I just pruned them. So I'm hoping that by next month, I'll have more mulberries to harvest. But for the month of May, we're gonna be harvesting blueberries. I'm so excited. So while we harvest these little guys, I figured we could talk a little bit about how I grow them. I had a very unique experience this year. I went on a farm tour to the University of Florida. It included a lot of farms. One was a blueberry farm, the Florida Blue Farm, I think is what it was called. Very nice lady who runs that. She talked about how she grows the blueberries conventionally. This was up in Gainesville. But then we had the opportunity to go over to UF Extension Department. It's like their place where they do all their little experiments, and they were doing a blueberry experiment. They were attempting to grow different varieties of blueberry that could handle the cold and the hot, right? Because that's our unique climate here. Blueberries like cold weather. They actually want chill hours, which is something that we'll talk about in just a minute. Oops, I'm losing blueberries. They're so good. But they want cold weather. They just want it at a very specific time. They want cold weather before they start fruiting, and blueberries fruit down here while we're still in our cold season. So what you do want is cold weather. What you don't want is cold enough weather to freeze them. And that's what that farm that I visited was struggling with. We had the coldest winter we've had in years, especially their area. They had a really bad winter. And so they were experiencing ice on their plants, which caused them some issues. So the University of Florida has been working on developing different varieties that can handle the cold, that can handle the ice coating that's required for them to do when they have those freezes. You know, they coat the whole plant in ice. They also were looking at blueberry varieties that would grow bigger because they do have to harvest most of their blueberries by hand. And if you can harvest a larger berry, it's actually more cost effective. So anyway, I learned a lot there. I learned about all the different varieties. I ate 3 different varieties. They said that one of them had won out. I'm going to put them up here on the screen. One of them had won the taste test, but for me, the middle one, or the second place winner, was really the winner that I thought was the best tasting. It reminded me of something from my childhood, some sort of flavor. I still haven't pinpointed what it was, but it was just so good. And the berries were huge. These berries, you know, they're pretty small. Those berries were like 2 to 3 times the size of these berries. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it was very interesting, the things and the trials that they were going through to create new varieties of blueberries that would grow well down here. I'm always on the hunt for a blueberry that's going to do well in Florida. There are several. That's the cool thing, is there are several, but there's something that you have to understand. Well, there's several things that you have to understand when it comes to growing blueberries here in Florida. The first one being their soil requirements. All blueberries, regardless of the variety, want very acidic soil. They want the soil to be, I think it's like 5 or 4.5 to 5.5. I kind of try to stay in the 5.5 range. Now the downside is that putting in the ground here in Florida is a bit of a challenge because most of Florida soil, I won't say all, but most Florida soils are more alkaline, which means they sit closer to like the 7. If you've ever tested your soil in your raised beds or in your direct soil or sandy soil here in Florida, you'll notice that you're going to get in the high 6s to 7s. And that's just because of the limestone that we have, the sand that we have. It tends to be a little more alkaline, which isn't a big deal when it comes to fruits and vegetables, but when it comes to blueberries, it becomes more of a big deal. These guys want acidic soil. So what I do is I keep them in pots. I don't grow them in the ground. I did grow these guys in the ground for a little while, and they were going down fast. They were getting very, very sick, very unhappy. They looked awful. for like a year, and I finally was like, I got to pull them out. I can't leave them in the ground. They're just going to get sick and they're just going to eventually die. Now, I think there is some caveat to that, right? If you live in an area with lots of pine trees create more acidic soil naturally from the pine droppings, the pine needles, the pine leaves, the pine roots. So if you could kind of grow them near a pine forest, you would probably get a pretty decent, you know, soil acidity just naturally. But I don't live near anything like that. So I can't take advantage of that natural habitat of acidic soil near pine forest. So what I have to do is I keep them in these pots and I add acidic materials. So what are some acidic materials? Just like we talked about, pine bark, pine needles, pine shavings, all of those are slightly acidic, and so they're going to help. The other thing that I do is I don't go with a potting mix or a soil mix, because a lot of those are built for vegetable gardens. They're not built for acidic blueberries. What I will go and get is straight up peat moss with nothing else mixed in, because usually when they have peat moss, they mix other things in to make it less acidic. We don't want that. We want the peat moss that is acidic. So I will go and I will just get regular peat moss. And then I'll mix that with the pine shavings or the pine bark nuggets. And then I will usually add coffee grinds. I'll add soil acidifier. There's elementary sulfur, which is another thing that you can use to acidify the soil. Some people do vinegar. I've had a couple people tell me that they add vinegar, and I've been like hesitant to do that, because I did do some research on that because I was having some issues with the acidity of my water, or the alkalinity of my water in my indoor setting. And they said you could use vinegar, but it's like very short-lived. And so I don't know. I haven't done that, but some people have said that they do that. That would be interesting. I wouldn't want to chance it though and possibly kill my plant by putting vinegar on it, because it has to be such tiny amounts. Otherwise you're going to cause it to become too acidic. Now, thankfully, the vinegar does wash away pretty quickly, which I think is one of the reasons why I don't use it as well, is because it will wash away and then it's no longer acidic. Whereas something like the soil acidifier stays and is slowly dissolved into the soil over long periods of time, and you don't have to use it very often. I will say, if you are going to use a soil acidifier, go really slow. And by really slow, I mean like put half the amount that it says and wait. It says 6 weeks. I would wait 6 months. This stuff slowly seeps into the soil for so long that it'll be acidic for so long. And if you just keep adding it, you're going to keep making it more and more acidic until you drop below that 4.5, and then it's going to act dramatic and upset again, just as if it was above 6. So you kind of have to be really careful, really slow, really gentle. I'm getting quite a bit off here. I'm really excited. This one plant did produce quite a bit. So besides soil acidity, the other thing you have to consider when you're picking your variety of blueberry is that it is meant for your area. And what I mean by that is if you get enough chill hours. Now, there is a blueberry variety that does grow like in South Florida where there's not very many chill hours. Let me back it up a little bit. What is chill hours, right? Chill hours is temperatures below 45 degrees for a number of hours every year. In my area, there's a website. I'm going to put it down here where you can go to it, or it'll be down in the description. It's weather stations nearby that tell you how many chill hours your particular area got. I'm typically in the 250 to 350 this year. I got like almost 400, which was crazy, which is probably one reason why these guys are so happy. But they want a certain number of those hours. Some can be as low as 100 hours. There's one that is, I think it's Biloxi, is almost like 0 hours. And those are the ones that I believe that you can grow in South Florida. And then there are some that are as high as 1,200 hours, right? Which we will never get here in Florida. So you definitely don't want to grow those particular varieties. You want to grow the ones with the number of chill hours to your particular area. Now, the two varieties I'm growing in my garden right now is, this is called Sunshine. This blueberry style is called Sunshine. And then right next to it here, I've never actually tried these yet. This little guy right here is called a pink lemonade. I'm not 100% sure that these berries are ready, but let's try it. But look, it's pink. Yes, they're ready. Oh, those are good. Oh my goodness. Well, okay. New favorite is unlocked. Wow, those are really good. I like those. So pink lemonade, this is its first full year in my garden. And I really got it because I wanted it to cross-pollinate with the sunshine. The sunshine was producing okay, but it wasn't producing like amazing. Like I really wanted the whole plant to have like a lot of berries on it. And so I got the pink lemonade as a way for it to cross-pollinate, to increase the flower production as well as the flower pollination. But there's a lot of different varieties that you can grow for your particular area. That have the right amount of chill hours. So all you have to do is look up your area, figure out how many chill hours you get, and then when you're looking up varieties or you see varieties in the store, you need to Google the variety name to see how many chill hours they require. Because nothing is worse than getting a plant that has the wrong amount of chill hours for your area, because what will happen is we'll produce a plant, it will grow, you'll take care of it, and it might flower, but it'll flower poorly, and it probably will not form fruit if it doesn't get enough chill hours. Now, the chill hours are kind of a suggestion that I have found. Usually it's plus or minus, right? So in my area, I grow a Tropic Beauty peach tree, and that one I think requires about 250 hours. But I have friends in Sarasota that grow it that get like 100, 150, and they're still fruits. So there is some leeway there, but you definitely don't want to get on the high side. It's better to be on the low side. These are good. Pink lemonades. They're so good. Oh my God, they taste like pink lemonade. That's my new favorite. Man, I hope these get really big and bushy. The next thing is whether or not you need multiple varieties like I have growing here. So you don't need to. I had the sunshine by itself for years, and it does produce, but it doesn't produce in abundance. And if you're going to be taking care of these pots, you want them to produce a lot. So I highly recommend getting 2 varieties. But it's not 100% necessary. They will fruit on their own without the other variety present. Usually you know that they are ready for harvest when they have turned their full color. So with the pink lemonade, it's kind of like this pinkish, whitish. I think it gets even darker than this, but I couldn't help myself. They're so good. And then the sunshine is the dark, dark blue. And then what usually happens is they start to change colors and then they swell. I had to bring mine into my pool cage or my lanai in here because the birds were already starting to steal the blueberries. I have what I like to think are very polite squirrels and birds. They do take 1 or 2 things, but I usually keep water for them, and that usually satisfies them. But when it came to the blueberries, I noticed that they were pretty psychotic about it. They're that way about the mulberries too, but I don't mind sharing the mulberries. I mind sharing the blueberries. So I had to bring them into my pool area once they started to turn blue. Because the minute they started to turn blue, the birds started really like picking at them. So I brought them in here so that they can finish ripening. It's only a couple weeks. Thankfully, since they are in pots, that's not a big deal. I just bring them in here, and once we're done harvesting them, I'll take them right back out. So if you live here in Florida and you want to harvest fruit out of your garden every single month, I think blueberries should definitely be on your list for May. Next month, we're probably going to be looking at peaches, plums, and some more mulberries. So make sure to hit that follow button down below so that you don't miss out on any of that. And if you haven't checked out my new book, The Florida Fruit Garden, you definitely want to look into it. It is a book about every different fruit tree that you can grow here in Florida for North, Central, and South Florida. And it has an index that shows exactly all of the different facts about each fruit tree. And it also has fundamental and foundation information like how to plant your fruit trees, how to pick your fruit trees, all about chill hours and tropical trees, everything you ever really wanted to know about growing fruit here in Florida so that you can harvest every single month of the year. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Happy gardening.